There is a land at the heart of Europe that has been crossed by every storm of history. A place where the Vistula River carries the echoes of kings, poets, and martyrs. It is a nation that has known the height of imperial glory and the silence of total erasure. Yet its spirit has remained uncrushable. This is the story of Poland, not just a country, but a living testament to the idea that a nation lives in the soul long after the borders have been taken away.
Part 1. Echoes from the Past. In the beginning there was the whisper of the oak and the flight of the eagle. The vast plains between the Baltic Sea and the Carpathian Mountains were once a sanctuary of ancient Slavic tribes, a land of deep forests and endless horizons. Here, the Polans, the people of the fields, the Dipolofilks began to weave their destiny into the fertile soil. Legend speaks of Lech, who followed the flight of a white eagle toward its nest against a red sunset, choosing that spot to build Gniezno, the first capital. This mythic bird would become the eternal symbol of a people who looked to the sky for freedom, while keeping their feet firmly rooted in the earth. These early centuries were a time of formation, where the diverse Slavic clans slowly coalesced around the life-giving artery of the Vistula, creating a community bound by the shared rhythm of the seasons and the sacred mystery of the northern landscape. The true awakening arrived in 966, when Mieszko I, the first historic ruler of the Piast dynasty, chose to lead his people into the light of the Western world. By accepting Christianity, he didn't just adopt a faith, he forged a shield. Poland became the eastern gate of Latin Christendom, a bridge between the ancient Slavic traditions and the structured world of medieval Europe. This was a transition of profound consequence, as stone cathedrals began to rise where sacred groves once stood, and the first Polish state emerged as a recognized power. The Piast kings defended this newborn sovereignty with iron and blood, securing the borders against holy crusades and eastern incursions alike. It was a time of rugged growth, where the identity of the Pole was forged in the fire of defense and the quiet pride of a civilization finding its voice in a chaotic world. As the Middle Ages deepened, Poland grew from a frontier state into a kingdom of weight and wisdom. The reign of Casimir the Great brought a transformation of stone and law. It was said he found a Poland of wood and left it in brick. He founded the Jagiellonian University, making Krakow a beacon of learning for all of Europe. But the land remained a crossroads, and in 1410, on the fields of Grunwald, Poland and its Lithuanian allies faced the existential threat of the Teutonic Knights. The victory there was more than a military triumph. It was the birth of a regional superpower. The subsequent union with Lithuania created the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, a sprawling, multi-ethnic giant that stretched from sea to sea. In this era, Poland was a sanctuary of tolerance, a place where different faiths and cultures coexisted, while the rest of the continent was consumed by religious fire, marking the first golden age of a nation that believed in the power of the law and the liberty of the individual. Part 2. Dawn and the Rise of the City-States. The Commonwealth was a phenomenon unlike any other in history, a republic of nobles, where the king was elected and the law was supreme. This was the era of the Golden Liberty, a precocious experiment in democracy that granted the Polish nobility rights unseen elsewhere in the world. Cities like Krakow, Poznan, and Gdansk flourished as hubs of the Renaissance, where the Copernicus changed the heavens and poets refined the language into a tool of sublime beauty. Poland was the granary of Europe, its wealth flowing down the Vistula to the Baltic ports, fueling a culture of aristocratic splendor and intellectual curiosity. It was a time when Poland felt invincible, a vast land of wooden manors and stone castles, where the spirit of the Sarmatian, the mythic noble warrior, became the heart of the national character. This era of grandeur was epitomized by the Winged Hussars, the most feared cavalry in history. With wooden frames draped in eagle feathers attached to their backs, they charged with the sound of 1,000 birds of prey. In 1683, at the gates of Vienna, King John III Sobieski led the largest cavalry charge in history to save Europe from an Ottoman conquest. It was Poland's finest hour on the world stage, a moment of selfless heroism that cemented its role as the bulwark of Christendom. Yet, the very liberties that made the Commonwealth great also made it fragile. The liberum veto, the right of any single noble to paralyze the government, began to turn the state's freedom into its shackles. As neighboring absolute monarchies grew strong, the Polish democracy, beautiful but paralyzed, began to drift toward a tragic horizon. By the late 18th century, the sun began to set on the Golden Age. The Enlightenment brought a final desperate burst of energy, resulting in the Constitution of May 3rd, 1791, the first of its kind in Europe and the second in the world. It was a masterpiece of political reform, a last-ditch effort to save the nation from its predatory neighbors. But the reforms came too late. Russia, Prussia, and Austria, terrified by the spark of Polish liberty, moved in to tear the country apart. In 3 successive partitions, Poland was devoured. In 1795, the kingdom that had stood for 8 centuries was wiped from the map. The king abdicated, the archives were looted, and the White Eagle was banned. But the partitioners made a fatal mistake. They thought that by destroying the state, they could destroy the nation. They did not realize that Poland had ceased to be a place and had become a prayer, a song, and an unbreakable promise. Part 3. The Wars of Survival. The 19th century was Poland's long night, a century of existence without a state. For 123 years, the country was a ghost haunting the maps of Europe. Yet, this long silence was when the Polish soul was truly tempered. Every generation rose in rebellion in 1830 and 1863, fighting impossible battles against the overwhelming might of the czars and kaisers. When the swords were broken, the fight moved to the heart. The Great Emigration saw Poland's greatest minds, Chopin, Mickiewicz, Norwood, flee to Paris, where they turned their grief into art. Chopin's nocturnes were cannons buried in flowers, and Mickiewicz's epic verses became the secular Bible of a nation that refused to die. To be Polish was no longer a matter of geography. It was an act of daily defiance, a commitment to a culture that was more real than the empires that occupied it. The year 1918 brought the miracle of independence. Out of the ashes of World War I, Poland was reborn, led by the iron will of Józef Piłsudski. It was a brief, sunlit morning of only 21 years, but it was a time of frenetic reconstruction. Poland had to weave 3 different legal systems, 3 different railways, and 3 different societies back into a single fabric. Then came 1939, the darkest hour in human history. Invaded from both west and east by the twin totalitarianisms of Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, Poland became the bloodlands of the 20th century. Nowhere else was the occupation so cruel. Nowhere else was the resistance so fierce. From the sewers of the Warsaw Uprising to the hallowed, horrific ground of Auschwitz, the Polish people endured an apocalypse. 6 million citizens perished, but the underground state never surrendered. Poland was the only occupied nation that never produced a puppet government, fighting on every front of the war until the very end. The conclusion of the war did not bring true freedom, but a new kind of captivity under the iron shadow of the Soviet Union. For 4 decades, Poland was forced into a system that was alien to its history and its faith. But the resistance continued in the shipyards and the churches. In 1978, a son of Poland, Karol Wojtyła, became Pope John Paul II, telling his countrymen, "Be not afraid." His words ignited a spark that became the Solidarity Movement, the first free trade union in the communist bloc. Led by a humble electrician named Lech Wałęsa, 10 million Poles joined a peaceful revolution that eventually broke the spine of the Soviet Empire. It was a triumph of the spirit over the tank, a victory of the word over the whip. Poland had not only survived the 20th century, it had become the catalyst that finally brought the Iron Curtain down, reclaiming its place in the family of free nations. Part 4. Reflection and Legacy. Today, Poland stands as a vibrant, modern European power, yet it is a country that lives in constant dialogue with its past. To walk through the rebuilt old town of Warsaw, a city that was 90% destroyed and resurrected brick by brick, is to understand the essence of the Polish character. It is a legacy of reconstruction, a refusal to let the ruins have the last word. The Polish identity is a unique blend of romanticism and pragmatism, a culture that celebrates its martyrs while building a future of innovation and growth. It is a nation that has learned that security is never a gift, but something earned through vigilance and unity. Poland's legacy to the world is the proof that even the most powerful empires cannot extinguish a culture that is rooted in the dignity of the person and the love of freedom. The Polish heart is a mosaic of influences, the chivalry of the hussar, the devotion of the pilgrim, and the brilliance of the scientist. From the discoveries of Marie Curie to the moral courage of Witold Pilecki, Poland has consistently contributed to the advancement of humanity, often from a position of profound suffering. It is a nation that understands the value of a border precisely because it has lived without them. Its legacy is one of solidarność, the realization that we are all responsible for one another. In a modern world that often forgets its roots, Poland remains anchored in its history, drawing strength from the centuries of struggle to navigate the challenges of the new millennium. It is a country that has been tested by fire and emerged as pure gold, a guardian of the values that define Western civilization. Looking toward the horizon, Poland remains the phoenix of the North, a nation that has mastered the art of rebirth. The white eagle once again flies over a land that is sovereign, prosperous, and free. But the memory of the long night remains a part of the light. Poland's story is a universal epic for any people who have ever been told they do not belong, or that their time has passed. It is a reminder that as long as one person carries the language, the song, and the memory, the nation exists. The Vistula continues to flow, carrying the dreams of past generations into the reality of the present. Poland does not just exist on the map, it exists as a beacon of resilience, a testament to the fact that the human spirit, when fueled by hope and honor, can never be truly defeated.
History is a judge
that often rules against the small and the weak. But Poland has consistently appealed that judgment through the sheer force of its will. It is a land where the earth is filled with the bones of heroes, and the air is filled with the music of survival. Poland stands today not as a victim of history, but as its victor, a nation that was erased, but refused to vanish, a nation that was broken, but refused to shatter. From the ancient forests of the Piasts to the shipyards of Gdansk, the story remains the same. Poland is not yet lost as long as we live. The white eagle has returned to its nest, and its gaze is fixed firmly on a future that it has earned through 1,000 years of courage. The horizon is wide, the legacy is eternal, and the heart of Poland beats on, stronger than ever before.